So this week, we're going to kind of continue that conversation of professionalism as we look into the interviewing process. This is probably my most favorite part of this curriculum, is the interviewing process. Has anyone already interviewed for a job? How was that?
Okay. The first job interview I went through, it was kind of like, oh, you just got the job already because they needed people. But then the second one, like I totally was not prepared for because I had no idea how it worked. Because the first one was like, oh, how are your grades in school? Good? All right, bring in your documents next time you're here. And I'm like,
That was it.
all right. And then
They didn't know if you were like...
Yeah. And then the next interview that I did, they asked me like why I think I would be good at that job. Why do I want to work there? And I was like, kind of had to like do it on the fly.
Right.
Totally was not prepared.
So you're going to be prepared next time. What else did you do in your interview? Who interviewed? Yes. Tell me your name as you talk, because I'm losing names. Like I see your names on paper, but I forget it when I see you.
So when I did my interview, first when I put out the application, I had to like call them the next day, just like to make sure, because I wanted to like take some processes. Like I know like sometimes they look at the computer just like that. So I called them in, and then they gave me a time to come in. I came in, and it was kind of weird because he was asking big questions like, oh, what do you like to do in your free time? I was like,
So we pause there. He asked the question, what do you like to do in your free time? Remember the first activity we did in this class? They talked about what? Talked about your likes and your dislikes, or your strengths and your weaknesses. So they're asking that because they want to know, what are you passionate about? What do you like doing? What else did they ask?
yeah, it was just basically like, what do I like to do? Like, also, the amount, it was my first job, so I didn't know, so he was like, what amount do you expect to be paid? And like, I know that jobs like normally is like 8:30, so I like trying to be nice, and I was like, 7:30, like, you know, just, I didn't want to know.
Yeah, we're going to school you on that. Jason's got to point to that. Go ahead.
Oh, yes. Hey, everyone.
Hi.
Everybody remember Jason, right?
Yeah, the last week. So, to your question, when he asked you that question, what do you want to make an hour? And you being generous, right? You said, did you say 7:30, you meant like $1 less? Okay, so I caution you guys, I caution you all to not do that. Here's the reason why. If you have, for the position that you applied for, pays $8.30 an hour, right? And you say, hey, I want the job, so I'm gonna lowball myself. Then some managers could use that as you don't value your skill. So what they'll try to do is take advantage of what you're telling them pay rate wise, or what you want to make, and they'll say, great, I can pay this person less. They may treat you differently because they know you don't want the money that we're offering. Now, when you all become professional in your careers, you know, whichever you decide to do, and you know you're worth a certain amount of money. Now, don't be egregious with it, where if you see a salary range that's like $50,000 to $70,000 a year, you're like, I need 90. You're gonna pay me 90. Well, they need to know why they need to pay you 90,000. Because if your resume looks just like his resume and her resume, and they're all the same, what makes you different, right? So to the point, don't discount yourself. When you discount yourself, you're telling them that it's okay to treat you like this. Otherwise, you're making $7.30 an hour, she's making $9 an hour, and then you guys go to lunch one day and you're having a conversation and you just so happen to ask, well, what they paying you when you started? Oh, I'm making $9 an hour. How's that gonna make you feel? Bad, right? And guess what you may want to do? Talk to the manager or what? Go find something else to do, right? So the point is, like, don't devalue your talent or your skill, because the minute you do that, sometimes they got you right there. Okay? Thoughts?
No, you got to know what your skill is. I mean, you guys, a lot of you are really starting out, gaining skills and getting work experience. So you evaluate that. You evaluate that, and like we research companies, you can research what the salaries are for those types of jobs. There's Glassdoor, there's other salary websites that you can look at to kind of gauge what's the going rate for my skill level as well. All right, questions? Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing. All right, so tonight we're going to talk about interviewing basics and techniques, being prepared for the interview, frequently asked questions, interview questions, and the STAR method. Many of you ever heard of the STAR method? Anybody ever heard of the STAR method? No? Not in some of your classes? We talk about the situation, the task, the action, the results. So we're gonna dive into the STAR method, and actually you can use the STAR method in your classwork. You can use it in terms of answering questions in interviews, and guess what you can use this for? Writing your resume, telling that story on your resume. So keep this in mind as we go through tonight. All right, so what is an interview? What do you think an interview is? In your own words, what do you think it is? Like some of us said, she said that she was not prepared for the first one or for the second one. What do you think an interview really is? Yes, Jada, right?
Yeah, it's like a conversation between two people about like your skills.
Do you think it's a given for you to get an interview when you apply for a job? No. Nope, it's not. So if you're applying for a sales clerk 1, you probably got 150 sales clerk 1 applying for that job. And me as a recruiter, I gotta look and see, and most of it, if it's online, it's a systematic program that says, what is it in this job application or this resume, words, sometimes it's words that they're weeding out to see if you fit the profile. So if you fit the profile, they may call you for an interview. So you're right, it's a meeting, it's that first chance for you to make an impression. And if you get that first chance, that's a big win. So an interview is definitely a meeting between the job applicant and the representative of the company. Job available. The company had a job available, people applied for it, and the company needs to decide who to hire. Purpose, talked about, for them to get to know you. First impressions. She said the second time her interview didn't go so well, they were a little more, inquiring a little bit more about who you were and what you can do. So the purpose is for the company to get to know you, allows you time to examine the company. So this is not only the opportunity for the company to see who you are, but for you to see who they are, right? If the interviewer from the company comes and they are disrespectful, or they're using slang, or they're not on time, or you can make judgments on whether you want to be a part of that company. So you're also gauging the perception. And we talked about the companies interview every applicant. Just think about it. If it's 150 people applying for one job, we don't have time to interview everybody. So your resume and your job application has to stand out. Has to stand out. How do you think it stands out? What can you do to make it stand out? And we'll talk about this next week. What can you do to make it stand out on paper? Yes?
Add personality.
Add personality. In what way?
Like, instead of like doing like the monotone thing that like most people with a lot of credentials do, just like
Add some flair with words, some descriptive words, right? What else do you do? Same thing? Okay, somebody have their hand up.
I was gonna say just be strong advocates.
So how do you know what to write though? I mean, when you're beginning to write your resume, you got limited experience. How do you know what words to use? You can ask your parents. How else do you know? Yes?
You could ask like an English teacher.
English teacher? Yep. How else can you know? Do you think you know right off the bat? Writing it? Yes.
sometimes people like look online at like resumes that high school.
And when I tell you you can get a PhD in Google, I mean that thing. I really do. You can get a PhD. I still look at the websites to find out what is someone else saying about the qualifications or the descriptions of these jobs. What are other people's resumes look like? And I borrow those words and write them in my own words to make them more, what word did you use?
Like personified.
Personified. So it's okay to do that. It's okay to kind of see what else is being written about these jobs, who else is writing about them. Just don't copy and paste. Because interviewers can sometimes tell that you just copied and pasted. Use your own words, but use the style that they're using.
Think of this guy here on the bad side, right? On the bad side. Now, he could also, on the bad side, come dressed in a suit. Clean, right? Everything. And still have the same demeanor. Don't put his phone away, use slang, preoccupied with other thoughts in his head, using words that shouldn't be used during an interview. But if you notice the body language on this side, right? What he's looking at is not just your resume. Go back to a key point he said. Your resume, your application was thorough. Your application was thorough. So he's already vetted you. Now I'm trying to see if I can like you for 8 hours a day. He clearly likes this guy. He can work here because he fits what we're looking for professionally. Right? Right? What's your thought about that?
I like that.
You like what, Cameron?
Came prepared. I like the other.
Yeah, just like that. Yeah. Well, he's doing something, right? But you can read the body language is different. In this video, this guy, you can tell I'm okay with this person in this shirt and tie that showed up. He was prepared, he was ready, we had a good conversation. He said a lot of key things I said all the time. I'm organized, I work very well with others. That's important to an organization when you apply. He wants to hear this stuff. I bet that conversation was a lot shorter than that conversation. That conversation, I bet the manager was like, oh my God, how do I even tell my colleagues that this guy came in with a baseball cap, a t-shirt, and jogging pants and was answering his phone during a conversation. That really happens. Don't be that guy. Just don't think they don't exist. Okay? It's funny, but it's true. They do exist. What would you do if you were the manager? Somebody. What would you do? Show them the door? Excellent. What would you do? Not even, would you entertain the conversation? Would you entertain the conversation with them?
No. I'd probably be like, hi, bye.
Hi, bye. Okay. All right. What if you had to interview him? What would you do?
I'm sorry. I was just gonna answer the other question, like, you don't wanna get like, they could make a whole court case, like, they didn't even let me interview. You gotta know your rights, like, to see if you're,
Sure.
even, if you're, I don't know.
Well, that's
At least
right.
entertain a little bit, maybe you're reporting how terrible it is.
It's terrible. It's terrible. Don't be that guy. I'm telling you. When you guys start to build your professional careers, don't be that person. Like, really just go back and think of this video and say, how's the body language during this conversation? When you guys meet new friends, what do you guys want to pay attention to? Body language, right? Like, do I think I could be their friend, or are they standoffish? All right? Pay attention to that when you're going for an interview. Thoughts, questions? For the sake of class, I won't share a lot of the experiences I had as a recruiter. People that I meet with, I just really think I'm being pumped, and Ashton Kutcher is going to jump out at any moment. Okay? All right? Thank you.
And once again, we're building you through these classes and this curriculum to get to that guy. So by now, and by the end of this class, you should be that guy. Because you were able to talk about your strengths and weaknesses, right? He talked about researching the company. He talked about, when he can add value. He was dressed professionally, which we'll talk about. And he's interviewing well, which we'll cover tonight. Somebody have a hand up.
I know that the guy on the right talked about like wages and salary. Is that?
Don't talk about wages.
Yeah.
What about like scheduling and like
Scheduling.
It's a great, it's the same conversation.
Okay.
Scheduling is very, very much the same conversation.
Now, if you had a second and third interview, the compensation may come up, the salary may come up, but not that first one. Yeah. I remember when I first started recruiting, and I would get a lot of young people that would come in for customer service jobs. I remember stopping a girl, just stopping her mid-conversation. I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I said, I don't know what you're saying, what you talked about. I asked a question, you tell me how to bake a cake, I can't do this. What I will do is let you come back next week. You're not gonna get that today. let you come back next week and do it all over again. Here's what I want you to do. You're not gonna get that. You get that one chance. And there's something called first impressions or first appearance bias. There's a lot of things that go into how you look, your identities that play into, am I gonna give you an equal chance at this first chance? So you gotta bring it in a way that supersedes everybody else that's coming in that door. And that guy on this side brought it. Yeah. All right, so, I think we're back on. Yep. Preparing for an interview. So we talked about preparing for an interview, knowing your strengths and your weaknesses. Everybody pretty good on that? Everybody pretty comfortable on that? So don't come with these mock interviews and don't know what your strengths or weaknesses or your interests are. Everybody okay to be able to speak to that? Yep, okay. Researching the company, we did that. Being there at least 15 minutes early. What do you guys have to do to be there early? Leave early, coordinate with your parents if they're driving you. You're taking the bus, making sure that the bus can get there and you know where to go. 15 minutes early. Why do you think 15 minutes early? Yes?
I'd say so. You have time to use the restroom, get your mind right, calm down, and not feel flustered.
Right. Anything can happen between you leaving the house and getting to the interview. So if you anticipate getting there at least 15 minutes early, that's really you leaving the house maybe 30, 45 minutes early to get there and be prepared. 15 minutes for you to kind of review your resume, any notes about the company. We talked about last week bringing 3 copies of your resume. What did we say the reason for that was? To bring 3 copies? Yes. Yes.
Okay, yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, for the person that you're interviewing with, one for yourself, just in case you need to look over it, and then like whoever else you might pass by, that might be.
Yep. What were you gonna say? What's your name?
Hannah.
Hannah. What you gonna say?
I was gonna say if the interviewer brings like a higher manager or supervisor, they have one too.
So at least 3 copies. Is it 3 copies, one-sided or two-sided?
Wait. Oh, one-sided, yeah.
One-sided? How long do you think your resume should be?
2 pages.
You've got 3 pages worth of stuff to put on your resume.
I'm just saying, you gotta fill it up with whatever.
Okay, so for me being the recruiter, and Jason can vouch for this too, if I'm looking through a 3-page resume, it's probably for a PhD job. You guys working at Target as a customer service agent, you can fill it up in 1 page. 1 page, same font. Now, I liked in that interview that we saw about the guy presenting his resume as well as the references. He was prepared to do that, and he also made sure that it was an accurate resume. So if you guys are going into with the resume, chronologically, it needs to make sense. So you can't have your job you had 10 years ago at the beginning. You got to make sure that it has a sequence, right? Spell check. We talked about this, right? There's nothing worse for a recruiter looking at, especially at an interview. If you get to an interview and you got any misspelled words, I'm already gone. I'm like, she doesn't have quality. She doesn't pay attention to details. She can't even bring me a piece of paper. Correct spelling. So those would be some things you think about. Pen and paper. Interview instructions. Usually jobs will send you instructions, meet us at here, meeting with this person, go to the lobby, sign in, making sure you have all of that. Questions about preparing for the interview?
Who thinks all interviews take place at the actual place where you're working? That's why. Why do you think they're always at the same place that you think you?
I never really thought of that.
Just raise your hand.
No, I just thought it was always separate.
Who knows that some interviews take place at restaurants?
Some people even say it's about.
Come where?
It's about.
Why? Oh, I don't know about that one, Dad.
If you're at the mall, like if you're in the mall, you're usually in the lobby.
Yeah.
Oftentimes you're not in the store for an interview.
When I relocated to Columbus, my interview was at Max and Irma's.
What job?
I'm sorry?
What job?
Well, a senior recruiter position. This was 2013.
This Max and Nervous.
Max Jones is a restaurant.
There's only 2 of them left.
Yeah, there's one in Gahanna and.
There's one in Hilliard too.
German Village.
There's one in Hilliard.
No, they closed it.
I think the other one is in Devil. Because I know it's one of the annex, that's mine.
Okay. So when I showed up to Max and Irma's, the hiring manager said, hey, just so you know, I invited the senior vice president as well. I had no idea the senior vice president was coming to have lunch and meet me. You know how nervous I was? Like, wait, hang on. You said it was just, okay, whatever, right? And we sat there for 2 hours. My initial manager, we sat there for at least an hour and a half. The senior vice president came in, sat down for the last 30 minutes, shook my hand and said, oh, it's nice to meet you. When are you moving down here? And I told her, well, it'll be a couple of weeks, but I want to see what happens first. Great, we'll be in touch with you next week. I have my offer the next day. Yeah, you get a free motion too. It's a sign of insulting if you don't, right? Now, I'm not saying get the steak dinner. You know, it sounds good, but maybe a salad or, I know that I was hungry afterwards. But you can get a salad, maybe something to drink or whatever. But if they're offering like, hey, please eat whatever you want, it's okay. You know, if you want to get a burger, fries, wherever you decide to go, that's cool. Because if they're eating, they don't want you to just sit there and stare at them for 45 minutes, right? But most people will get a salad, right? Get a salad just to have, so you can continue conversation. Yep.
Did you said you came in like 2 hours late?
She came in at the last 30 minutes, but he and I, Steve, were having lunch. I met him at 1, we were done at 2, but the SVP came in around 1:30-ish. And she met with me for that short period of time and said, great, nice to meet you. We'll be in touch next week. And then that next day, Steve sent my offer letter. Then I had to relocate and come on down.
I was just gonna say like.
What did I eat? Oh, I had a cheeseburger. I was hungry.
But here's what you don't get. Like, really, these hiring managers and these recruiters, really the hiring manager has the last say.
They do.
The recruiters just get you in the door. We're like salespeople. We get you in the door, make sure you're make and model. The hiring manager, if they're courting you to Max and Irma's, then they're making final selection thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you get to that point, they've already weeded out other candidates. They're courting you at this point. Same thing with college interviews. If you get to them taking you out and showing you around, that's courting. You're in that final selection phase. Recruiters just hurting the masses, weeding them out.
Exactly. We're the people that's actually looking at your skill set, your resume, to see if the hiring manager will like you or not, based off of your resume. Are you presentable, right? Going back to that interview, would you show up just like that guy to Max and Irma's, right?
So let me break it down in terms of how you guys see this at your age, in this age of being lit and relevant, right? Of course, we do not want you walking in looking like your mom and dad, right? We don't want you doing that. But having that presentable look, so if you have a nice pair of slacks, fellas, a white shirt, dark blue shirt, you can go to Plato's Closet. I take my daughter there all the time, and I buy shoes from there. You can get a nice white shirt, blue shirt, that you can use for interviews. Ladies, knee length, black skirt, dark blue skirt. Again, a button-down shirt. You don't want to have a shirt that's low cut. You don't want to have your shoulders out. Because what I'm thinking as an interviewer, I don't care how skilled you are, like he said, that red suit he wore, I'm distracted. I'm distracted if you got them big hoop earrings. You know what else I'm distracted by, ladies? If your hair is 2 feet off your head, I'm gonna be distracted. So a very conservative, simple look for that first impression. After you get to that first impression, you can rock whatever you need to rock for that climate in that company. Make sense? So I'm not telling you to go out here and look like your mom and dad. We want you to look like your age group, but make it simple, make it classy. Even a simple black dress, knee length. If you wear, I'm just focused on the ladies right now, if you're wearing a short skirt and you go to sit down and cross your legs, distracting. Another thing with perfume. Sometimes we want to be fresh and clean, fellas included, right? And we want to put a lot of perfume on. Jason, what's the rule for cologne for the guys?
So spray and walk into it, that's it. But, let me just say this. If I can smell your cologne and you've been gone for 5 hours from the last time we met, I'm not calling. I'm not calling you for the reason of you may give a sinus headache to the hiring manager.
That's a true statement.
Or myself, if I have to meet with you again. True story, I had a guy shake my hand. Right? Shook my hand in the interview.
Oils.
Kind of, nice to meet you, we'll be in touch. I swear, when I got home, my wife said, you wear a new cologne? Like, I haven't worn cologne in years. Right? My hands smell like this man for a day. I felt violated. So ladies, gentlemen, when you get cologne, consider the other person on the other side of the table. Because if they go home smelling like you, they too could feel violated.
You're in trouble.
Okay? And for ladies, I can't speak for ladies, all right? I'm not gonna speak for ladies, but for men, please, be very mindful. Yes, you may be the new cologne that's out, like, I don't even know the latest cologne that's out. You know what it is?
For fellas,
Dude,
latest cologne,
I don't know,
there's so many.
it's soap and lotion, okay?
Soap and lotion.
Dove, shea butter, and shea lotion. There you go, use that.
Shea lotion. The same thing with the ladies. I mean, I know we like our Bath and Body Works, but again, you want it to be very subtle and not overpowering. Shoes. So what do you think about shoes when going to an interview? Flats or little pumps, as long as you can walk in them and you're not like a unicorn walking in there with high heels on. Ladies, so as long as you can walk in them, you're not used to walking in 3-inch heels, then don't wear them to the interview. Because you may fall down before you get to the people you're talking to. Fellas, a nice pair of black, dark sole shoes or brown shoes. Tennis shoes, rubber bottoms probably isn't a good look for, unless you're going for a warehouse job. Like you gotta think about the job you're applying for. Going for a warehouse job, that may be okay. You know, those boots, maybe okay. The tennis shoes, no. Everybody has a nice pair of dress shoes, right? Does anyone not have a nice pair of dress shoes? Plato's Closet, I'm telling you, they got Jordans in there. They do. Like my daughter took some shoes in there and she made $40. They be bringing nice shoes in there. So, Plato's Closet.
I have one thing. Who loves to collect gym shoes in here? Like gym shoes, like whenever the new J's come out, go get them. This guy's got big, so that means you. I'm sorry. Yeah, like do you buy Jordans every time you go out? Every time? Okay, let me ask you this question. Every time you buy a pair of Jordans, how many pair of dress shoes do you buy?
At least 2.
At least 2. How many white dress shirts do you have? 4. You have 4. Good. Anyone else? You a Jordan collector too? No? Adidas? Okay, so every time Adidas come out, do you buy a pair of dress shoes? No. How many pair of dress shoes do you have? 6.
Oh.
Awesome.
What's everybody? What?
What's up?
Don't worry.
Oh, please.
Alright, so you know, dress shoes for church,
Okay.
for parties.
Oh,
Not like work, but like fancy.
There you go.
Casual parties.
Right.
And then like I got laced, and like I don't really like lace because like pieces always come out, and so I use it as slip-ons, and it's like this tight, like you don't get with socks.
I
Yeah,
can dig those. I know socks.
No. They're meant for.
They're meant for no socks.
Your slip-on.
Yeah.
All right.
And then, yeah. I mean, like some of them don't work. Fit, you know. I just have to.
Okay. All right.
It does, jeez.
Y'all can have
No,
it.
y'all talking about that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
But whenever you buy a pair of dress shoes, I mean gym shoes, ladies and gentlemen, please buy a pair of dress shoes. it's only gonna benefit you, benefit you in the long run. So good job.
Yes, great. All right, so we talked about shoes, we talked about hair, nothing flashy, keep colognes, be mindful of tattoos and piercings. Now there are some companies, because you've already done the research for the companies, companies like Google and some other companies are real kind of expressive in terms of you having tattoos and earrings. So it's okay to kind of err on the side of caution for the first interview. Right, without having all your piercings in or exposing all of your tattoos. Right? Once you kind of get to the second interview, you know you're going to get hired, and it's okay to have that in your culture. It's even kind of evolved in banking. It used to be in banking, you couldn't really have a lot of tattoos or earrings visible, but that's kind of evolved. So you really kind of got to know what the company culture is. Cell phones, turning off your cell phone. You guys know that, right? In the interview, that guy in that video, rude. Just where he said, you can see I'm good at texting. You're fired. And be nice to everyone. Why did we say last week or a couple weeks ago to be nice to everyone?
You never know who you're talking to.
Never know who you're talking to. What else?
Never know who your boss is.
Never know who your boss is. Never know who has influence. Person at the front counter, the custodial worker, janitor could have influence in that particular company. All right, so answering questions. So we're kind of getting to the good stuff. Answering questions. This is,
I have a question.
yes,
If there are other people in like a waiting room, maybe they look like they're also waiting to be interviewed, should you converse with the other people?
and you know they're interviewing as well.
Or you would assume as a person sitting there, like you might think that they're interviewing as well, should you converse with them?
I say minimally.
I guess it depends on like, define, are you like in a waiting room?
Yeah.
In a lobby?
Yeah.
See, I'm a people person, so I'm talking to everybody.
Yeah.
By the end of me waiting, I done got everybody's recipes. I know what kind of snacks they got in their purse. That's just the kind of person I am. If you're not that person and you're going to get tripped up and not be prepared for that interview, just sit in silence and meditate. But if you're, that kind of engaging person, I say it won't harm, but still be ready to do your interview.
So, like, if you are, like, conversing with people, like, you probably wouldn't talk about, like, oh, yeah, I'm here to interview, too. And then, like, would you, like, I would...
I mean, they probably are doing the same thing, so it wouldn't hurt. I mean, I will tell you that jobs anymore in interviewing, even though you guys think, well, Target is always hiring, Wendy's is always hiring, McDonald's is always hiring, keep in mind, there's a lot of generations that are re-entering the workplace. When I talk about your grandmas and your uncles and them, they having to go back to work. So they're standing in line too for these jobs. So the war on talent, the competitiveness on talent, you okay, is fierce. So don't just assume that it's not competitive, right? Even for these entry-level jobs. So it's nothing wrong with you being polite and asking if they're also interviewing, but you're also competing for that spot. So let's talk about answering questions, because this is the biggest part of an interview. So we saw in the video where the guy was very poised, he was very prepared and talking about himself and talking about what he can add value. In the interview, the questions is really a deep dive into one, can you articulate what I just asked? Do you understand the question? Can you respond? So as you prepare for an interview, you're preparing, and this is going to be part of your homework, you're going to look at questions that an interview will ask, and you're going to prepare for those. I tell people all the time to practice, go home and practice answering these questions. So take time to analyze the question and respond accordingly. If they say, tell me a time where you dealt with a difficult customer and how did you handle them? And if you said, I just gave them their money back and went on about my day, that's probably not the answer they're looking for. They're looking for how you handle a difficult customer and solve the problem. So really analyze the questions. If you do not understand the question, it's okay to ask them to repeat it. I was doing interviews here at the college for a research job, and it was intense. It was intense. I feel sorry for these kids. But one young lady said, can you repeat the question? Probably every question, she wanted to make sure she understood. It's okay. We don't look at that as, you having some kind of deficiency. If you don't understand the question, ask. It's gonna be the interviewer is talking fast, or whatever. This gives you the best chance to provide the information. Sometimes I've seen folks in interviews when a question is asked, they have their pen and paper and they kind of write down some notes. Just kind of making sure they have clarifying words so they understand what's being asked. Maybe clarifying words to respond to that. Anytime somebody asks a question, tell me a time, what do you think you need to respond as? Situation, yeah. Situation and your behavior. And this STAR method allows you to do that. Okay? STAR method. Situation. So what was the situation? What was the task? What did you have to do? What action did you take? And what was the result when responding? I know this seems like a lot, and you're thinking, well, I'm giving a dissertation and responding to these questions. But it can be simple. Question I just asked. Tell me a time when you had to deal with a difficult customer. Tell me a time you had a difficult customer. I was working at Target, and this customer came in and they were upset because we double charged their credit card. They were screaming and hollering. So I simply responded to the customer to make sure I understood what her problem was. I looked at her receipt, I checked her account, and then I was able to resolve and give her credit back to her account. That was the result. Make sense? All right, so Jason's gonna talk about, oh wait, let me do this real quick. So responding to questions. Be confident in responding. Because you practice certain types of interview questions, you're gonna be confident in how you respond. Take notes. How many of us take notes now in conversation or in meetings or in class? What does taking notes allow you to do?
Remember.
It helps you comprehend the information.
Yeah. Comprehend, remember, look back, compartmentalize, right?
You said like a special thing that you want you to memorize the content and write it on the slide. It's not on the slide.
Right. Absolutely. Taking notes is not something that shows that you have some learning disability. It shows that you are simply listening and you're trying to clarify the information so you can respond accordingly. Period.